I'll tell you what, though. You know this now. Sitting beside Wayne, either at the dinner table the night before or on the desk, those are the best stories.
It's insane how his mind works and how he's able to remember all these stories. And he just loves the game of hockey so much. And he's like a hockey encyclopedia. He knows all the history of the game, even before his time. So it's getting to sit down with him any chance you get is just an experience in itself. So the whole TNT experience, along with the rest of the group, has it's really turned my life upside down, and I'm forever grateful for it. I text him like once a month, just like thanking him out of the blue, being like, "You're the man, you're a legend. Thanks for everything you've done for me, Wayne." And I look forward to hearing more of these amazing stories.
We're definitely going to get into your work with Warner Brothers Discovery. It's still got to get used to as opposed to Turner. Warner Brothers Discovery
Sports. Just say TNT. Just say
I haven't even adjusted yet.
I've gotta respect the proper terminology, John. But one of the things, Paul, that's interesting, I think you really have done it well. Anson does it well. The whole group does it well. I think there are a lot of people on television when they are with someone this famous as Wayne Gretzky is, you can sort of be intimidated in some way by his fame. Not necessarily like, oh man, I want your autograph, but like, I got to step back and let him star because he's Wayne Gretzky and, everybody else sort of pals. I feel like you guys have done a great job, like demystifying like his star. And I wonder, did it take you some time to do that? And if so, what was that process?
Definitely a little bit nerve-wracking, not know how to react around someone that famous and the greatest hockey player who ever played. But it goes back to him and how comfortable he's able to make it. Because like we just talked about him just sitting down and telling stories. That's all he wants to do, right? He just wants to make the game look good. And so I would just credit him for making us feel comfortable around him in order to just be able to continue snapping it around and, us continue to deliver our points and things that we thought about. And even in some cases, maybe, contrasting what he says. So that's what makes it very unique and awesome. And I know he's not around all the time, but whenever he does come on board, he just fits right back in like a glove. And I've told him many a times, I said, if I would have earned the money that you made, I would be on an island somewhere. I don't think you'd ever see me. So the fact that he's even like giving up his time in order to come continue to grow the game after everything he's already done, it's just pretty remarkable. So he's a machine. And there's a reason why they call him the Great One, and I would say it has more to do with how he is off the ice and how he carries himself.
I've known Wayne since he was 18. So one of my first jobs was to produce Edmonton Oilers hockey when the Oilers came from the WHA. I've got to show you this picture.
Okay, here we go. I love this stuff. I love this.
This is Gordie Howe's funeral, and that is Wayne and a chubby bearded fat guy from Sportsnet talking off camera. And at that point, he is telling me, you know what? Gordie did it for so long. Gordie carried the mantle for so long. It's our turn to do it now. And I was in awe that this guy, yeah. By the way, when it started, he used to call me Mr. Shannon, and now it's just, hey, you. But you talked about, being on the air. He doesn't need to be on the air. He knows that this game needs Wayne Gretzky, and every day, Paul, he wants to give back. He wants to give back. That's the amazing thing about Wayne.
Yeah, like heavy is the head that wears the crown. I believe that's a saying. But like you just said, like he obviously knows the game has given him so much that he feels indebted to it, where he feels like he has to give back. Like even with like all these prospects that are coming up. Like, I don't know if you guys heard the story about Connor Bedard. He called Connor Bedard and I think Connor thought it was a prank call. So he was just totally uninterested. He thought one of his buddies, he's like, yeah, okay, cool. Yeah. All right. Thanks. See ya. And then months later found out it was actually Wayne who was calling him just to wish him luck. And, he was proud of him and he'd been following him and watching all of his accomplishments. So it just goes to show, like, he takes the time out of his day to make sure he's staying on top of this stuff in order to give back. And like you just said with Gordie, it's like the guys before him set the example. and he's just following it. And that's why he continually talks about these legends of the game and the Mount Rushmore, so to speak, who have paved the way for him.
Turner is Turner. I did it again. Warner Brothers Discovery Sports. There you go. They're a unique group in that they have a certain style when it comes to television, sports television production. Inside the NBA is the greatest studio show of all time, unquestionably so. You can say it's an opinion, but I can almost feel I can make the empirical case as to why it's not an opinion. But having written about them many times, the people on the set, Shaq, Charles, Kenny, they don't go to production meetings. Ernie does. They make it as organic as possible, and that's kind of the genius of the show. The show is sort of able to go to different places. Well, you guys are not that. I feel like you've tried to at least emulate some of that, where there's not necessarily like, it's not like A block, Anson speaks, B block, Paul speaks. It's like a conversation with you guys, and I think that's why people have taken to it. Can you take us sort of just behind the scenes of like what they told you sort of their philosophy was when you first came on the set, and how you think you sort of worked within that?
Yeah, I mean, you just said it, right? Those the inside the NBA guys, they set the precedent. And you know, even from the beginning, you know, how welcoming Charles and the rest of the crew were really made us feel comfortable. I know Charles ended up jumping on that first show, but they even told us, they said, this is the vibe we want. We want guys snapping it around. We want guys to be opinionated. You know, it doesn't have to be that you talk for 30, he talks for 30, then that guy talks for 30. And I think that's what normal dialogue and normal conversation is, where I feel like the viewer wants that, and they want that off the cuff. As far as the production meeting standpoint, we do have them, and we do kind of chime in, because in some cases we have to say, hey, this is the type of video we want to try to explain to the viewer. So where we're a little bit different, in a sense of, we're also trying to teach an American audience about hockey, where it's not as prevalent as basketball is, and maybe not as common from the knowledge standpoint. We try to emulate that as much as possible. And I feel like we found like a great hybrid in that. And you know, and also with our chemistry, probably down the road, maybe that can continue to grow without having to be involved in every production meeting. But overall, I mean, I can't give enough praise to Liam McHugh and the way he's able to drive the bus and his motor, and he's been doing it for so long. And it's also not that easy, probably coming from NBC, where maybe it was a little bit more structured, where he adapted right off the hop, and he really lets each guy's personality shine. So, and then as far as Ace, he's a total pro. You know, he's silly, he brings in the dad joke. So and of course his, you know, credibility as a player too. I think people forget how good of a career that Anson Carter had. And then it really sucked losing Rick Tocchet, because he really, like, every time we'd be watching these games, like, he would have, you know, a goal would be scored and we'd be like, oh, that was a nice goal. And he'd be shaking his head. He'd be like, did you see that breakdown? Like, and then he'd start pointing out. So that coach's mentality would always come out. And I thought that we really had a good contrast. And, you know, when he left, I tried to take on a little bit of that trying to teach, but with him leaving, it had the opportunity for Hank to come in, where all of a sudden now you get the goalie perspective, and he's so good at being able to break that down. So overall, like, I just, you know, I'm just so grateful that the team that's been assembled in order to have the success that we've had, and we all genuinely love and enjoy each other's company. So it's just really made for a great broadcast, and I appreciate the compliment. And I think you're right on the money, where it seems to be a little bit of a hybrid of what they got going on and what we got going on.
How much teaching do you think you have to do?
I genuinely like that too. Like, I would talk, I like talking shop about the coaching side of it, and, you know, where the breakdown was, and maybe what some different coach's philosophy would have been in that instant, and how you kill penalties, what the power play is. Well, maybe not me for the power play, but
you got a good view of the power play from the penalty box.
Exactly. That's what I tell everybody. I said, I was in the middle of the bench just watching Tippett and studying him, and kind of studying what everyone was doing the whole time. I didn't have to go out there and play, but I feel like there's a balance that has to be met, where if there is something that happens in the midst of a game where we think that the viewer might need to learn a little bit more in depth as to what they saw, then we try to take a stab at it. And that's what's fun too, is we're in the back, we're watching, and we're all of a sudden trying to build on the fly, whether it's a video package that we're going to break down. Maybe we'll bring out the whiteboard, or in some cases we have the set where we go with the net, where that really I felt helped out from the goalie perspective, because Hank can show fans from whatever it may be in positioning. So there's no real like set mindset going into it. It's more reacting on what we're seeing in the course of a game. And it's great. It's great when you get something like, did you guys, I don't know if you guys were watching during the playoffs where Foligno ended up getting kicked out of that game against Dallas. And Turner ends up bringing, or how Warner Brothers Discovery, my apologies. I don't want to get canned. They would bring in an official, whether it was Don Koharski, and I'm drawing a blank on whoever the other official who came in there. I feel terrible. If he hears this, he's going to be like, oh, come on, Biz. But we were able to bring him down and go through what's the ref thinking, what's going on with the player's mindset, the guy getting hit, why he got thrown out. So that's part of what's fun about having the juice going in there, is you have to be on your toes and ready to react and talk about anything on the fly. And that's what makes it fun.